Welcome to Sundry News for Monday, June 22nd. We begin with the Daily Wire. Yay! I got the Daily Wire email today. Man brutally beats Macy's employee, claims he was called N-word. Macy's responds, it is clear this attack was unprovoked. Yeah, even if somebody insults you, it's really not usually okay to beat somebody brutally. AOC boasts that Trump's Tulsa turnout was sabotaged by Zoomers who got fake ticket reservations. Okay. New York City Museum taking down statue of President Theodore Roosevelt. Seriously? 1 dead, 11 wounded in Minneapolis mass shooting. So they're taking it down before the riots can come and tear it down? Is that it? That's pure cowardice. 1 dead, 11 wounded in Minneapolis mass shooting. Berlin authorities intentionally placed children with pedophiles for 30 years as part of experiment, German media says. Holy crap. What? The Daily Wire. German psychology professor Helmut Kendler reportedly conducted an experiment starting in the 1970s that intentionally placed homeless children in homes with pedophile men because he thought that the men would make loving parents. A study conducted by the University of Hildesheim has found that authorities in Berlin condoned this practice for almost 30 years. The pedophile foster fathers even received a regular care allowance, German government-funded public broadcaster DW News reported. Helmut Kendler, 1928 to 2008, was in a leading position at Berlin's Center for Educational Research. He was convinced that sexual contact between adults and children was harmless. Oh. DW, which is short for Deutsche Welle, noted that Berlin's child welfare services and lawmakers turned a blind eye to the illegal program. Researchers at Hildesheim University began investigating the program and found a network across educational institutions where pedophilia was accepted, supported, defended. A first report on the Kendler experiment was published in 2016 by the University of Göttingen, DW News added. The researchers then stated that the Berlin Senate seemed to lack interest in finding out the truth. Now, Berlin authorities have vowed to shed light on the matter. In a separate report, DW News highlighted men who have come forward to tell their stories about how they were sexually abused by the pedophiles that they were placed with as children. Just men? Where are the women? DW News reported that in the 1960s there were segments of the German population who did not view sex with children as wrong. Instead, Kendler was one of the driving forces behind the idea that society should adapt to and embrace pedophilia, particularly in Germany. So these days we do have history repeating itself. That's my theory. History always repeats itself. It's always a cycle. DW News reported, today it is clear that he was nothing less than a matchmaker for pedophiles, but for a long time he was widely viewed as a visionary and one of Germany's most prominent sexologists, or sex experts. His books on education sold well, and he was a popular expert and commentator on radio and TV. His theory of emancipating sexual education was based on the premise that children are also sexual beings who have a right to express their sexuality. Liberating children's sexuality from repressive moral strictures would help to unleash energies that would in turn lead to political protest and the true democratization of German society that Kendler believed was still necessary. During the late 1960s, a new young generation of Germans began to ask what exactly their parents and grandparents had got up to during the Nazi Third Reich. All traditional and authoritarian moral values were subjected to critical scrutiny. The utopia of a free and unshackled society was shared by many. In this potent mood of social liberation, the previously unthinkable became thinkable. It was suddenly acceptable, it seemed, for pedophiles to indulge their sexuality with young children. Researchers say that the German authorities are not sure how many children were intentionally placed with pedophiles. We don't know how many children or young people were actually affected, Teresa Nentwig, a research fellow at Göttingen University's Institute for Democracy Research, said. Nor do we know how old they were, whether the foster fathers were judged to be pedophiles or ephebophiles, those with a sexual taste for older adolescents, or when the fostering project formally ended. I don't believe that all of these things can still be determined. And now Germany is even more fucked up than I thought it was. Historically. Who knows what's happening now, though? Ads. Bunch of ads. How to permanently fix bad posture. New device.